Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh. I didn't even put the gosh dang logo or the intro up. Look at me. Sorry, everybody. I forgot to tag those in there. Ugh, hang on.
We're here. Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries with all your gore, lore, and more. Covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour yourself a nightcap and turn your fright lights while we take you on a tour of terror. And yes, we're back here. A little technical difficulties. I think we like to mix things up here on a Sunday, get your work week started.
We got to keep you guys on your toes, right? Yeah, can't.
Toes.
Yes, toes.
Wrong here.
Now we're gonna lose our whole audience doing that.
Sounds like another stream of growth right there.
Adrian, welcome back, my boy. We've now done just last week. Yeah, just last week we were on our own in the depths, or was it 2 weeks? Because were you there for when we had Jake on?
No.
Yeah, was he not? I thought he was.
I know we had
one 2 months ago or 1 month ago or something like that.
I think we were off and on because you were not with us last week. You were with us mobile the week before, and then
that's right.
Prior to
that's
that.
Right. Yep. But hey, I think we're all set here on vacations and stuff, so I think we're good. Should be a couple of concurrent weeks with you boy as the corner producer over there, keeping things lively. What's going on, everybody in the chat? We got Romy, one of my favorite movies. Let's roll. Absolutely. Like we talked about a couple shows back, we were doing the Hell House review series, which is going to be, of course, a Sunday Scaries exclusive here. Mostly because I've seen all of them and Luke has only seen the first one. So this is going to be fresh watches for him, rewatches for me. Adrian, you are always welcome to join us as well on that. But yeah, I'm excited for this because this is a little fun little series, and I know it's got a diehard following.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I mean, I've dove a little bit briefly into the second one. Didn't really hit for me thus far, but I'm willing to give it a full-on watch, and I'm excited to see the rest of them. So, but that first one, as we'll talk about here in a little while, really works. It's really good.
My personal favorites are 1 and 4. I think those are the best. And I'm not saying 2 or 3 are all that bad. I just think that, we'll save it. We'll save it for the reviews, obviously. But yeah, what's going on? Shutter at 2 Think. Welcome. We got Violet popping up in here as well. Happy Sunday. What's happening? Gremlin, what's going on, my boy? Penelope, what's going on? And let's see. We're doing pretty good. Can't complain. Like we said, a little technical difficulties at the beginning there. Wasn't really on top of my game like I usually am with this. Who am I kidding? It's a mess. I'm just shooting by the seat of my pants every week.
That's what we do here.
Mama Mayhem, what's going on? Necro McAnimal. And let's see. I've only seen the first one a couple weeks ago. Need to catch up with the rest. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, this is a series that I went into with all of the hype built up, and being kind of Luke and I in the same boat of not really being the biggest found footage people at the time when I started watching it. We started to really soften up on it, and I gotta say, this one, especially that first film, really won me over big time. I was like, this actually feels creepy and scary, and I really love the subtlety that they did with most of it. I'd say probably 90% of the movie, very subtle, and then we'll save it for the review.
Yeah, I enjoyed that first one. I mean, again, we'll talk about it more in depth, but not being a big fan of found footage and then kind of starting to peruse after, we started the channel and started getting more open to found footage. I think, Dylan, you were the one that really pushed me into checking out that first Hell House, because I think you were doing a video on all of them. And I just casually mentioned I hadn't seen any of them. So I ended up checking out that first one, and I do enjoy it. I think, it is talked about quite a bit for people. So,
even have Isaac here says it's unpopular opinion, but Hell House LLC is overrated. So yeah, I would agree with you. It's talked about quite a lot.
Yeah, it seems like it pops up on every list when you're talking about found footage or just kind of scary movies in general. So I could see that one easily being overhyped. I think, Dylan, you may have even said something to me when I had initially gotten into it. You said it was really good, but I think you had mentioned that it was just popping up a lot. So I was kind of prepared for it.
I would just say, like, it's the first one I love a lot. I think, like, just a brief thing for you is just like 1 or 2 and 3. I think that it's one of those things where the filmmakers felt pressured, it almost feels like, because of the success of the first film, to keep going bigger and bigger with the concept. And then when you get to 4, you realize, I think that they thought, hey, you know what? Like, what if we kind of just take a couple steps back here and focus more on that, like, creep factor that I think makes that first movie so impactful? Because, like, yeah, there's a couple of, like, some of, honestly, the scenes that have made me jump more than anything in the last, like, 10 years in, like, this movie, like this first film specifically. Like, I have a couple of things in my notes here that I cannot wait to talk about, just because you're going to think it's kind of dumb when I explain it, but when you watch it in the context of the movie, it's actually really fucking creepy, and I love it.
Yeah, they have a great handle on kind of building that tension and knowing what works, because there are a few elements in here that, even being seasoned in the horror space, I think caught me, not necessarily jump scares, but just kind of that, like you said, that creep factor that they do have just with some of the imagery that they do. I think, they have a handle on composing those good scenes and really using the found footage element, where sometimes when you watch a film and it's found footage, you're like, I don't know if they're using this to their benefit or to their full potential, but I think Hell House, at least that first one, really did use that found footage aspect to its full potential. When we got into the second one, and I know we'll talk about that next week, but it seemed like they were trying to find an angle for that one to, you know, be comparable to the first one in a different way. And for me, at least, it wasn't working. I think I only watched like 20 minutes of it so far, and it wasn't necessarily hitting the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, I do want to save it because, like, I do have a lot to say about 2 and 3 specifically, just because, like, again, I have my issues there, but it's complicated because, again, I don't think any of them are necessarily bad. But a series I'm definitely on board with, Gremlin Ryo mentions here, of course, Bloodlines. He checked that out over the week here, and he gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Great movie. I can't wait to watch it. After watching Luke's video a couple weeks ago, I'm really excited to check it out. It's one that I know my wife's watching right now. I'd like her to watch because I don't know how big of a fan she is of those movies, but I think she'd have a lot of fun with it.
That one is, doing some extra research on that for that video. I think I watched a couple times being prepped for the video, and what a happy surprise it was going into the theater. I wasn't really expecting too much. I know people, we got to it a few days later than we had originally thought we were going to. And then, people were speaking pretty highly of it. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to hit. Maybe it's just, people being so excited the franchise is back. But going into the theater, and there's a point in there, and I talk about it in the video, where it's like, oh, they're really trying something new here and really subverting our expectations. And I was fully on board with that, especially then what we see after that scene and what the dynamic we're playing with. I think they really made an effort to make it make sense in terms of continuing the actual franchise, not just saying this is a new Final Destination, but this is a Final Destination film that has an intriguing angle to it.
Yes, I would agree. I think that, again, I don't want this to turn into a, every single year we get a new Final Destination movie. Just if you got an idea and it's as strong as Bloodlines, like, let's go with that. Like, let's just keep that up there. Because I could go every, 4 years or so. Kind of like I say with Jurassic Park. Like, as much as I love Jurassic Park, I feel like you need a 2 or 3 years between each sequel kind of thing to kind of really get you back in the zone and get excited for it. Because I think a big part of that for this one, and why we were so excited and why people were so eager to check it out, and thankfully they actually did something with the concept and it was pretty quality. We just hadn't had one in a while. So I think you were going to get butts and seats at least opening weekend for horror fans, regardless of the quality of the film.
Yeah. And, I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm hoping in terms of horror and just kind of film goers in general, and where we're at with the horror space, is that maybe we've moved on from an installment every year, where it's like, let's just kind of regroup, figure out an intriguing concept and find out what works. Because of course we're going to see another Final Destination down the line. It hasn't been officially announced, which, for me is a good sign to say, we're not just going to try to pump one out by next year and make a bunch of cash off it. So I'm hoping, that we're going to take a few years, find a concept that does work, so we're not just leaning on the kills, which are a great piece of Final Destination. But I don't think we need to just double down on that and not really have an intriguing story, because you need that connective tissue to make us care about these characters and give us a reason to watch. And I hope that's a lot of the horror franchises, where it's like, okay, we're past having a Saw every year, where that didn't work out too well. We ran out of gas. So I'm hoping that's the concept that we're going to be dealing with going forward, is that we're not going to double down and get you installment every year. It's going to be every few years. I mean, I think that's wishful thinking, but I'm hoping that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and it seems like we got a lot of love here. Violet says, I rewatched Final Destination 1 through 5 recently, but still need to check out Bloodlines. I think you will be quite surprised once you sit down and see it. Hopefully we're not overhyping it.
Yeah, I know. Don't think it's like a masterpiece, but it is a great digestible
Lots of
watch
fun.
that gives you some intriguing stuff.
Dare I say maybe the best protagonist, I guess, group or characters since the first film?
I would say so.
I think there's just, I love a lot of them. Like, there's a lot of them, they don't feel as disposable as some of the other movies.
And especially doing that video and kind of dissecting, especially the brother dynamic in there with the two brothers. I think that is something that once you really watch it and understand the dynamic between those two and what each one has in terms of what they give them in each scene, I think you enjoy it that much more. A lot of strong character work there.
Absolutely. We have Joden here saying, watched together this weekend and enjoyed it thoroughly. Yes, I actually gave that a must-see this week. I was very, very thrilled with it. I'm still really high on it. That's another one that I want to have my wife sit down and watch with me. I think they'll be really into the concept. I think that, it's one of those things where all the marketing for that movie was really solid, I felt. And of course, controversy aside, I think, it was one of the few times recently, especially with Neon, where it's like the marketing has been on point, and I actually felt like every single piece of it kind of landed for me. There really wasn't a moment in that movie where I felt like, oh, this is where we're going to kind of fall off. You know what I mean? Where it's like, even though I loved Cuckoo, I can also understand that, that movie kind of, it has a bit of a genre and a tone shift about halfway through that I know won't work for people. And even though I noticed it and still loved it, this one doesn't have those issues. It feels very consistent. And I think the payoff is actually quite spooky and really enjoyable overall.
Very, very cohesive story. Even before we get to the real true horror elements to it, I think it's such a strong relationship, a believable relationship between Dave Franco and Alison Brie, that it is exciting to see where it's going to go. You feel like you're watching, and obviously they have natural chemistry. I talk about it in our review, but you feel like you're witnessing a real relationship, which you are. But it feels like what they touch on there is not an over exaggerated issues between couples. It really does make sense. They feel like real issues that they're dealing with. And then once we get into the horror elements, I think that just knocks it out of the park, because they really make use of the horror space. They weren't reserved with those elements. They really pushed them. It feels like you're, watching a film that's deeply ingrained in the horror space. And that's what I loved. And even that concept, just the overarching concept, if there was something where we could even explore that idea even further down the line, where it's like, hey, you could turn that into a TV series just using that concept alone, can be unrelated to the film, and just using the concept and really developing a kind of lore and really exploring those avenues, because I think it's such an interesting dynamic, something so different than what we usually see.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, especially it's good mix of body horror with, again, I think something that was pretty well thought out. It wasn't just like they leave some threads open, but the beauty of it is that they definitely, let the audience figure it out, as opposed to, I felt like we figured everything out that we needed to figure out while sitting in the theater watching it, and it wasn't like, oh, I need to go watch an explanation video, or I need to go think on it. I think that that's great when you have movies like that. They have their place, of course, but I think that it's also important when it's necessary to tie up a story, and I felt like they did a good job. But I also agree with you. I think you could totally take this concept and do some more with it, and I would like to see more with it. But again, just like Hell House, give us a reason. Don't just I don't want Together to Electric Boogaloo because, you know, it made money or whatever. Like, that is not the business we need to be in with that kind of a movie. I watched Hell House, all 4 movies last week. Nice. Perfect. So you are all caught up. Isaac mentioned The Surrender here. I remember we did not get a chance to see this one. We were thinking about it, but I think at the time we had like Marshmallow and a bunch of other stuff. Like, March was surprisingly pretty busy for horror movies at the time. So like that's one I do want to go back and check out.
It has been surprisingly busy. I think even the first half of 2025, to be honest, because it's like I think we go into it a lot of the time saying, "Oh, at least we're gonna have a little bit of a layover before we really ramp up with the horror stuff." But honestly, this year in particular seems like I think we had a screener right at the beginning of January, and it's been very consistent throughout the entire year.
Yes, I would say so. We've had some disappointments, of course. They're going to be
Oh
in there,
yeah,
but I think like it's been another strong year. I don't know if it's as
I just
strong
meant
as
with
the last.
content. I didn't
Yeah,
mean with
definitely.
yeah.
Like, the spread has been nice. There, it seems like every month we have something to look forward to, if not a handful. Mama Mayhem says I watched Final Destination Bloodlines this weekend too. I was pleasantly surprised, and Tony Todd, seeing him like that, I know that's the part that just put that movie over the edge for me, of just being like, this will be something I'm excited to go back and see, just because I would watch that scene on its own. Just being a fan of Tony Todd, being a fan of those films and everything that he did with Final Destination, Candyman. I mean, hell, even as recently as the Sony's Spider-Man 2 game. I mean, he was a great voice for Venom, like incredible. So it's like, I think the guy is going to be sorely, sorely missed in the horror community and the acting community at large, because like he's just a talent that, you know, it's weird to still think that he's not with us anymore and we're not going to see him in movies, especially after Bloodlines, because, you know, we got to see him. He's still there, but that was it.
You know, and it's such a trip because doing the video, and I had a whole section dedicated to Tony Todd there, and I decided to, while I was talking, get clips from each different Final Destination and play them almost back to back. And it's like you see him. Man, I tell you, cancer's a thief of everything fun. You know, it's just like to be able to see him, you know, full of life, vibrant, and healthy in those first installments that he was in, and then and it's like what a lovely. But you know, seeing him a little more frail than what we're used to seeing Tony Todd is just it was a little sad to witness that. I'm glad we got the closure that we did, but it's just like, man, you just can't catch a break with that stuff. But at least we did get that closure with him. We got to see him on screen one last time, because that was, Dylan and I talk about, that was a pretty emotional time for us. We're just being able to witness that in the theater, even going in knowing this was going to be the last time that we're going to see Tony Todd.
Agreed. We got a $2 donation from our boy Silhouetted Animator. What's going on, sir? Thank you so much for your kindness and your support. Ever heard of the 90s German splatter oyster montage? I have not. I was looking it up as you dropped this in there. And then you follow up with it's shot on video splatter, very low budget, along the lines of the Green Elephant. So I will have to check it out. Maybe it'll make a list. I am not looking forward to anything with the comparison of the Green Elephant. There was a lot of fecal matter ingesting in that one, and I don't want that anymore.
I think I've seen some. I did pull it up as well. Never heard of it, but did pull it up here. This is from 1991. I'm assuming it looks like it.
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay, yeah. This looks like a. Well, this looks like some fun Sunday night viewing, I would say. So, depending on what you're into here. So, I don't know. This one could definitely make a list on the channel. It looks like just by these couple of pictures they show on IMDb here.
Hey, we'll see. It'll get there eventually, I assume. It's the first Bloodlines movie over enjoy. Oh no, I get what you're saying here. Yeah, Pet Sematary and Hellraiser Bloodlines movies were awful. Yeah, that's that is a tough one. I think I made that joke like in the review, or like, well, before we went in there, like the fact that, you know, it seems like every franchise at one point or another, even if it's not horror necessarily, gets to the Bloodlines title.
Yeah, I think we talked about Pumpkinhead maybe.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yep. They have I think one of them's Bloodlines and then Blood Wings, and they got a bunch of other ones. But I actually will say, maybe it's because I don't like the remake of Pet Sematary very much. I didn't hate Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. I thought
I
that it
think the
was
bar was so
watchable.
low, you know,
Yeah.
because I remember watching that. Did we watch that? Was that Fantastic Fest? What was that? Remember we got,
Yeah, that was the
um,
first Fantastic Fest.
and the bar was so low for that because neither of us enjoyed the remake. And then going into that, I was like, okay, well, it's not offensively bad. It was digestible. It's certainly not a great film, but you know, one of those ones where I think sometimes your viewing gets skewed a little bit when you have such a low expectation of something.
Yeah.
And if it's not a complete dumpster fire, you're like, well, okay.
Especially during a festival, because like you'll go from watching like this Fantasia has been fun. We watched a great movie that we love that we have a review dropping for tomorrow called Hellcat, which was awesome. And then, you know, you'd follow that right up with another one called Sugar Rot, which is just like terrible. Just one of the worst movies we've seen in a while. And it's like that's the kind of mindset you have to be in. It's kind of like if you were, you know, on Tubi and you were just doing like Russian roulette with movies on there, just being like, all right, Tubi, you pick something for me. That's really what it comes down to. And like, yeah, like Luke said, sometimes it can skew your viewing. So maybe I'll have to go back and watch that one again, give it my honest viewing. Also, between seeing that and now, I have read the book, and I can say with full certainty, the book has never been done justice. Even though I do have a soft spot for that 80s film, the book has never been put to screen, and I don't know if it ever will be properly, because there's so many elements in that book that they'd have to try to work in. I mean, we've never even seen Judd Crandall's wife, and she's such a huge part of the book, and she's such a huge part of like the horror for Judd Crandall. It's like I don't know, man. I they need to like make that into like I've always said Mike Flanagan needs to take that and run it like an 8-hour long miniseries, and he'd probably be the closest to knock it out of the park. But even then, I don't know if you could, because that book is terrifying.
Yeah, and you know, I promise this is not a works transition into one of our topics, but I think this is like a lot of Stephen King properties. I think are just more ripe for miniseries rather than films because there's so much in terms of the actual story itself that you would have to cover to at least be true to the source material, but give it time to breathe, that it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in and trying to just gloss over so many topics. That Stephen King properties, book wise, are such hefty properties, and especially for a creative to want to put their own spin on it, to say, well, it's not verbatim the book or the source material. This is something that I wanted to have fun with, play with, but also stay true to that source material. You just need more time. It's going to be something where it's, you know, pushing 2.5 hours is a long ask for an audience. But if you do a mini series, it's like 8 parts, 1 hour, an hour and a half. Some of those episodes, you can really do the source material justice. And I think people will be more satisfied from the source material, knowing the book and going in to watch it. Or if, you know, Mike Flanagan does it, you're a fan of Mike Flanagan, you can say, I can see some of Flanagan's creative stamp on this as well. And it just wasn't verbatim Stephen King's work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it'll take time. One day we might actually get something, but man, it's one of those stories that it's like I completely get it now, because I know everybody jokes and says, "Oh, the books are better than the movies." I don't know if they're jokes, but they're, you know, they're certainly more often than not that's true. And yeah, this is certainly one of them. Now that I've read the book, it's like every version just pales in comparison. It's kind of ruined those movies for me. So we'll see, maybe one day. But Stephanie in here says she saw Together, was awesome. Yes, absolutely agree. Splatter, and I know he corrected this. Who is your favorite slasher? Mine is Jason. Well, I can say that I agree with you, Oracle. Mine is also Jason Voorhees. He has been my favorite since I saw the remake at my cousin's house when I was younger, and that changed my entire world, because I was like, man, slasher movies are fun. I was terrified. I thought Derek Mears' Jason was scary, but at the same time, I was like, I want more. I want to see more. I want to learn more, and that's what really started it up. So that's going to be my answer. Luke, I know it, but you can tell him.
Yeah, mine has always been Michael Myers. I'm a real big fan of the Halloween franchise. I love Friday the 13th. I think, you know, Jason is a very close second. I grew up with Jason Voorhees in terms of like, I think I may have seen an actual Final Chapter was the first time I'd seen Jason Voorhees. And that was probably I think I had seen that even before I had seen anything Halloween. So I think Friday the 13th was my introduction in terms of the slasher subgenre. But Michael is just, I remember having so many different memories. I think I had seen 2 in the hospital, then went back and had watched 1. And then I remember I have a vivid memory of 6 being on television all the time. And
All the time.
I have an absolute love for number 4 as well. I think it just has a great tone. And of course, it's no secret that I love 3, even though Michael's not in it. So I think, Friday the 13th is certainly a strong franchise. I have a lot of great, favorite installments in Friday the 13th. It's just been Michael was like the one that I actually binged that franchise as a kid. So I always have the fondest memories there.
Yeah, I would agree. Like Halloween for right now, like, I mean, as far as slasher franchises go, or just, I think I'll go with characters instead. Like for me, it's like Michael's probably a solid number 2, but I think Art the Clown's sneaking up in there. And I think that a lot of that comes from not only just how exciting it's been to have the Terrifier movies like become what they've become in the horror space, but like really for me, like just to date myself here for the audience, I was born in 98. So it's one of those things where it's like I kind of have been living through an era where we haven't had the best like outings on screen for a lot of these horror icons. Like I love Friday the 13th, 09. Don't care for Nightmare on Elm Street, the Rob Zombie movies, I'm indifferent towards. Even the David Gordon Green Halloween movies are just okay to me. And we've had a litany of other, slasher icons come back with other movies. But for me, it's just nice to go and see a franchise like Terrifier actually like being there for its actual like first run and say, this feels like a horror icon that's going to stick around, that might stand the test of time. And to be in the theater watching those, like that's the one that like I think is starting to climb up for me because I get to be here for it. I get to experience it for the first time. I never got to do that with Friday the 13th or Halloween.
Yeah, no, I totally understand it. I think, sometimes we have that recency bias because it's like we are able to watch this grow, especially watching that first Terrifier, not being the biggest fans of it, and then going into Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, and that really winning us over and kind of opening up the doors for Art the Clown. Whereas the other stuff is kind of after the fact. I lived through some of the, I guess, worst installments of a lot of the franchise subgenre of slashers. So it wasn't really something that it was like, oh, in the heyday of Michael, Jason, Freddy, and they were still, in the purview of a lot of, they still are in terms of haunted houses and things like that. But it was more so those franchises running on fumes and kind of, we're still getting what Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, those things. They weren't the pivotal turning points in the franchise. They were just kind of marketing off of the past success of the franchise. And some of those are better than others, but it just wasn't the same as living through the 80s, being able to go to the theater, see the final chapter, and being able to see those new installments and be, go to school and be like, oh my gosh, did you see the new Nightmare on Elm Street film? That wasn't the case. But, going into these Terrifiers, it's like you're able to anticipate the release of those. And, we have the popcorn buckets. We have so much Art the Clown stuff. So it's like being able to live through that, really witness it, and having that luxury of being able to pre-order your ticket and being like, only a month away, and then we're going to be in the theater to see Art the Clown cause some mayhem. It's like you can't beat it. So I totally understand it. It's something where, hey, we're anticipating Terrifier 4 already.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
we have a long wait, but it's one of those things that it just gets you hyped. Anytime you look at it, anytime you want to throw one of those on to say, we're still in this, we're still engulfed in the lore of the franchise. We still have chapters to get through and understand. And that's such an exciting time. So I totally understand how Art the Clown is creeping up above, some of these more iconic guys that have been established for decades.
100%. And then we got a silhouetted back here again saying, sad fact, Tony Todd was the original voice of Dormammu until Marvel Studios replaced him. That's crazy. Why would you do that? That's wild. Oh my goodness. I did not know that. I would have loved that. And for it being Scott Derrickson too, I feel like a lot of people forget that. Like, dude's a diehard horror fan. Like, it's crazy that would happen. But you know, it is what it is. Had a nice memory with Tony Todd at a convention in 1995. He bought a get well card for fans to sign for Christopher Reeve in the hospital. That is super kind. What a fucking legend, dude. Honestly, to
Man,
even like have the foresight to think about that,
I
like you
know.
think, like you hear about all these actors, especially ones who were like from past franchises, being like so self-absorbed, and like, I mean, I've been to a handful of these conventions. I guess I can say the worst celebrity experience I had wasn't even for me. It was for my buddy John Camaro. Was Lou Ferrigno. Um, Dude was literally like, were you at that one, Luke?
Yeah, remember I got the tickets.
That's
Or the
right.
media
Yes.
passes.
Yeah, we were all there. I remember John, he drove up there to meet us, and I just remember standing in that line, and he brought, admittedly not the greatest thing to sign, he brought a copy of the movie I Love You Man, where Lou Ferrigno plays himself in there. And he got that sign, and dude like didn't even say hello to him or anything. And we talked to his agent more than he said a word, and it was just like, oh man, like geez. Like, and it's like, I get it. I know he's, you know, hearing impaired and stuff like that, but you know, it was just, it was the whole aura, everything. You just tell he did not want to be in Cleveland, Ohio. He was like, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be anywhere else. And I was like, okay, sorry, man. Had the complete opposite like experience with like everybody else. Luke, you got to meet somebody pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. Did I ever share this story on the channel? I cannot
I don't think you
remember.
did. Maybe when we were talking about Stranger Things season 4, but we had maybe 10 subscribers then. So
I got you. Yeah, I'll have to dig up the picture, certainly, here, and we can put it on our our community here. But I this was back in 2000 and what was that? Was that 16? 17 maybe?
17.
17, probably 2017. So I had the idea that I was gonna dress up like 11 from Stranger Things. So it was before I had a beard, so I decided I'm gonna grow out my beard because it'll be funnier that way. So I dressed up in the pink dress, the blue coat, the knee-high socks, the shoes, all that. I had the blonde wig on. And my whole thing was going to be that I paid the thing, I was just gonna have her sign a pop figure, you know, and just get a picture. I thought it was gonna be funny. So we're gonna do some interviews there, just people at the convention and what have you. So Dylan and John were there with me. They were going to you know, hold everything, and I was gonna hold the mic and get some interviews. So I'm like, let's go to the food court, and that's where it'd be the easiest spot to pick up people. So prior to this, I thought, you know, not thinking anything of it, I'm chewing gum, and I get my blonde wig caught in my mouth because of this gum. So we had to run to the bathroom, and I had to cut some of the blonde wig off. So I'm already irritated. And I'm like, let's just go to the food court and get out of everyone's way. So we're heading straight to the food court, and this wig is like, my peripheral vision is like 0. So I'm just like walking, trying to, and I had people ask me for pictures already as soon as we got in. And I'm like, okay, let's go. We're halfway down, and I hear a voice go, hey, can I get a picture? And I'm like, at first, pretend I didn't hear the person, and I'm going to try to continue to walk. And then I hear again, hey, do you mind if I get a picture? And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I go to turn, and my peripheral vision is already 0, and I throw the mic accidentally because I'm trying to set everything down. No, sorry, I didn't. The person threw their phone. That's what it was. I was remembering that incorrectly. So I'm trying to get all set. I'm setting the mic down and everything like that. And the person goes to pick up their phone. And finally, the person comes back to me. I finally look who it is. It's Millie Bobby Brown. She had just came out of like the little green room area, and she had just seen me. So she wanted to get a picture. So I was like, well, hell yeah. So she got a picture, and then you know, I said, whatever, you know, nice to meet you, all that stuff. And then we're heading back, and then like it was like a minute later, and Dylan and I are walking through the convention. Everyone, like a handful of people, saw me, be like, hey, you know, you're on Millie Bobby Brown's Snapchat. And then so finally, you know, we checked her Snapchat because I wasn't following her, and I ended up getting the picture. I'll find it, and then we can post it to the community post. But it was God, what a surreal day that was. That was rather interesting.
It was. And then like 5 minutes after that or whatever, I don't know how time works back then, but yeah, we actually were like walking out of somewhere, and I just remember like a whole group of security just like walking by, and then there was Anthony Mackie walking to his
We were looking at
station, literally.
posters.
Yeah, that's right. He walked right by us. Like literally, you could have breathed on his shoulder. Like that's how close together you were. So that was kind of fun.
that was a fun experience because we were staring at posters. Anthony Mackie must have had come out of the same green room, and like, I didn't seem like anyone knew that he was there. And like, I remember staring at him, and he stared at me for a second. I didn't say anything to him, and then just went back to looking at posters. And then after that, I think people started noticing he was there because it was like he almost gave me that look of don't say anything, and I was like, I mean, whatever. But it was just like it's those conventions are such a weird experience because you could just like look to your left and then there's a famous person right there.
Yeah, it's one of those things for me too. Like just being on my side of the Millie Bobby Brown thing, like I was recording everything because our plan was like this was first iteration of like by admission only, our first podcast we tried to do. And like we were just collecting footage and things like that. Luke was interviewing people in costume, doing the whole 9 yards. So I didn't even catch it right away because I was sitting there fiddling with the camera, trying to get that ready to go so we could take some more interviews. And Luke gets like all that interaction going on. Well, while he's doing that, I'm like standing there fiddling with my camera. I look over, realize who he's talking to, and I'm like, holy shit. And then he like is just there chilling. This other guy comes over, huge dude, obviously security of some kind, and he just puts his hand on my camera and just pushes it down. And I was just like, oh yeah, okay, no, I got you. Yeah, it's like no free photography here, not at all. But yeah, no, it was funny, dude. It was like you kind of just bumped into somebody like that famous, and then all of a sudden the security and everybody, you get like circled. It's funny. So it was definitely a memorable experience. I haven't made like the biggest deal to go back to a lot of conventions. Like I think it's just they sneak up on us so quickly. But like I'm excited. I want to go to some of these big horror ones that they've been doing, like Cleveland, Michigan, Kentucky. Like I'd really love to start going to some of these and just like actually like going there, interacting with people, seeing how it's going, and just take in the experience. Because our buddy Jake, he does them all the time. He loves them. So it's like I want to go participate for sure.
Don't we have one coming up in Cleveland? I think is it the end of this month or
I think
next
it's
month?
the end of August, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know we got we didn't get invited to it, but we got an offer from I think like the other company to fill out like an application to do like be like presenters or something, or like Q&A people. We have to go back and look at that. I keep forgetting to do that. So
Yeah,
we'll see about that. We'll let you know if anything pops up, and we can go and we can meet if any of you guys are in the Cleveland area. That'd be awesome.
I'll dress up like 11 again.
There you go.
Or any league. I don't care.
Do that. Let's see. Off topic, but I watched Seasoning House because I saw it in one of your lists. Great movie. Very good movie. Again, one of the tough ones out of those lists that's like really hard to recommend, but like I have to at least admit that there is an attempt there to tell a really serious story, and I can give them at least credit for that, because a lot of the stuff I watched, the story is not the priority. So I'll give them that. Very tough movie to watch, but also very very good. I liked it a lot. I'm glad that you enjoyed it for all of the harshness.
Actually somewhere, or do you have to
that one's on Tubi. You can watch
Tubi?
that on Tubi. You can also watch it on, of course, effedupmovies.com. So if you guys are ever wondering, I know I get this comment a lot. It's in the not the next disturbing list, but the big one that I'm doing, kind of ranking all the ones we've talked about so far. In that script, I mention just answering a bunch of questions I've gotten on all these videos. effedupmovies.com. It's effedupmovies.com. So once you look that up, you can find pretty much anything that I'm talking about on there. Virtually. There's a handful like Wedding Trough and stuff that gets taken down for some reason a lot. Well, not for some reason, I know why, but you know, it's like that's
really
a tough
want
one.
to watch that one.
Yeah, goddamn. Yep, that's a fun one. But also Debo here donated $1.99. Thank you so much, Debo. We appreciate it. Almost 50K. Yes, we're getting really close, guys, to hitting our 50K subscriber goal. I don't know what to say. I'm just like, it's like every day I wake up, I see the little clicker go up, and I'm just like, man, I don't even know what to do at 50K. Like, we got to do something fun. Definitely going to let the Patreon folks know a little bit of like what we're planning, and then we'll put something out on the community page, so that way we can kind of get everybody involved in that, so we can kind of decide what would be fun, whether it's like a commentary, whether it's something, but like that's a huge milestone. So for YouTubers, so we got to do something cool to celebrate it. And I mean, obviously all of you here are making that possible. So we got to make sure it's worth it for you guys.
Yeah. We'll do something crazy fun, or just crazy. We'll see.
Cool. Let me get back here. Let's see. Have either of y'all seen the movie Reflecting Skin? I think it'd be perfect for a disturbing movie list. I also love the content. Easily the best horror. Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I have not yet. It is on my list, though. I saw that. I think you left a comment about that on one of my last videos a few weeks ago. I do have it on my list. I have not watched it yet. I have a large list of like a Google Doc that I'm just adding titles that people recommend in comments or that I find watching other videos and things of stuff I've just not seen. And like that's kind of where I start when I am concocting a new list. If I haven't already watched something that I think would be a good fit for it, I always go through that and then I just start reading descriptions, a lot of like summaries, plot synopsises, things like that. Pretty much all of my first exposure to some of these movies is reading, and then after that, once I actually start recording myself, that's my raw reaction. That's me watching those movies almost every time for the first time. I know if it's something I've seen before, which I've yet to do for the reacting ones, that would be probably, at least I'd have to mention that or something, because yeah, it's not like I'm sitting there, like watching these movies constantly. So like some of these are new exposures to me. I hate to say it, but I don't fill all of my time watching gross, disturbing horror movies.
The only one Dylan has watched on a consistent basis is, of course, Wedding Trough.
Yeah, every day.
It was one that that was. I don't think I talk about this on the actual channel yet, but when I had first met Dylan, I went to shake his hand. He said, "My name's Dylan Nolan. My favorite movie is The Wedding Trough," and that's how I knew what this kid was about. I said, "You know what?
Yep.
I like this guy."
That's just the worst movie ever. I hate it. Let's see here. We got a bunch of people mentioning here. I was born in 1984, introduced to Paramount. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
There we go. Solid right before the part 4 and everything. Let's see, 73. Oh, then you got to get it all.
Yeah.
Everything.
Mama Mayhem got to live through it all.
When did Halloween is 74, 75?
The original Halloween?
Yeah.
Then 78.
Oh, it is 78. I'm stupid. I'm thinking of Jaws. Damn. So you got to see literally everything. Congrats, Mama Mayhem. You're living through like the best age of cinema. It's funny. Art the Clown is awesome, but the actual movie, I get it. Like I completely understand. Like even people who don't like those movies, Art the Clown is just so magnetic.
Iconic. Yeah. Like so many people probably know Art the Clown from a meme now, just because in terms of reacting, it's a GIF. It's, Art the Clown is almost everywhere. So I can easily see in those films not being for everybody by the time you are introduced to Art the Clown and not knowing what Terrifier's about, and then especially sitting through the first one. That one, yeah, I think is an interesting place to start when Dylan and I did, when there was nothing else out there in anticipation for 2. I think, 2 is still very out there, but might be a little bit better in terms of actual connective tissue and a narrative that you can kind of latch onto. It certainly was for us, but especially seeing Art the Clown in a GIF, or just understanding, it's a demented clown, but then going into that first film, my gosh, it's an experience. It's really an adjustment, especially if you're coming from something like Halloween or Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. We're expecting that type of slasher, but this thing, they really do up the ante, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's like part of the turn on and turn off for a lot of people, is because it's like slashers are fun, and like a lot of, you'd think like normally older audiences or audiences who aren't like as steeped in horror stuff as all of us are in the chat, like, when you're showing this to like a normie, I think that can be a lot, because like Friday the 13th, Halloween, they're bloody, yeah, they get gory, especially as the sequels go along, but like they're nothing like Terrifier. It's like that's when you start getting into even like Saw territory and beyond. So it's kind of like they're mixing that, almost that torture porn subgenre, and mixing that with slasher movies. It's wild. So I can see why it's successful like it is, but also just why it's a turnoff for some people. Like it's just too much, or it's just not interesting enough. Let's see here. Russell popping up. What's going on? How you doing, my boy? Thank you, sir. We appreciate the support. Stephanie here with 80s slasher, Chef's Kiss.
Absolutely.
Love it. What's going on, Paula? How you doing? Let's see. I was born 1973 as well. Good memories. Drive-ins and VHS boom of the 80s. That sounds great, dude. I want to get us like, I wish we were in good with like a drive-in nearby and we could host like a bunch of drive-in
I would
screenings throughout the
love it.
summer.
I wish we had what do we have? Like a drive-in is what in Kent, I think maybe somewhere.
I know like close to Ravenna, Kent area. Yeah.
Yes, there's one. So it's not terribly close, but it'd be one that maybe we could look to, especially for the Halloween season. Maybe they'll play something. Let's get them to play Halloween 3. I want to see that in a drive-in.
I know. Like I was thinking, like if you could do some deep cuts in there, like Fun House would be so fun to see on a big screen, especially because it is like a carnival. So you know you already have that kind of out in the. If I'm thinking of the one in Kent, you know it's a big field, so you kind of have that vibe already. Like that'd be so good.
Does everyone in the chat love Funhouse? I mean, come on, you have to, right?
Check it out, Toby Hooper. I'm going to pull that up so everybody can at least see the poster if they don't know what we're talking about. Because if you have not seen this movie, do so. This movie is so good.
I caught that on AMC. This was during the day. It was just randomly playing. It was at the very beginning when, you know, the kids, was he hiding in his sister's closet or something? Had no idea what it was, just had that 80s slasher feel to it.
Absolutely.
And I was hooked. I was like, I don't know what the rest of this film's going to look like. And then, of course, when our dude takes off the Frankenstein mask, I was like, holy hell, we're in for quite the ride here. And I mean, that is essential viewing for Halloween. Absolutely.
All right. Should I embarrass myself and talk about, you know, kind of a very intimate kind of like very embarrassing story about this movie? Okay, I'll do this.
I haven't heard this, I'm assuming.
I don't know. I really don't know. It might have come up in conversation. So obviously I'm watching this movie. I'm probably like 11, maybe 10 years old at the time. You know, I'm a growing boy. I got hormones. I'm curious of the female form. The girl at the beginning is
mask.
Yes, right? And Frankenstein mask. The girl at the beginning, I watched this movie with my dad upstairs, and this is right at the birth of Netflix streaming. So, like, it's buffering every 5 seconds, you know, it's doing all this stuff. And so this girl, she, you know, is in the shower, nothing vulgar, violent, you know, she's just topless. And, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, I thought I was clever. I thought I was cool. Went downstairs, turned on my Xbox. I'm like, she was really cute. Let me see that real quick. Went back to that scene. I was like, oh, awesome. Boobs. Didn't think about it. 2 days later, my dad and mom are talking upstairs, or it's my dad and somebody. And he's like, oh, yeah, we watched this the other night. It's so cool. My dad goes to turn it back on, and I left it on that scene. And my dad was like,
rookie move.
Dylan, did you watch this again? Did you rewatch this? I'm not upset. I just want to know. And I was just like, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. And he's just like, I'm not upset. It's just what it is. But it was like, it was super embarrassing. And I was like, oh, dude, no, I did not cover my tracks. I made the worst mistake imaginable. Like, again, 10, 11 years old. I'm sitting there just feeling like the worst kid in the world. It's just like, man, that sucks. Like, but yeah, always learn your lesson there, kids. If you're going to sneak watching boobies and movies, restart the thing when you're done.
You know, we've all been there. Mine was Halle Berry and Swordfish. So
yeah, there you go. Yep, everybody gets caught with a little with that, you know. No, but that's super fun. It's one of those things where it's like I look back at that now and I think, you know, of course, like getting caught looking at nudes or something. It's like it's horror movies that got me there. You know what I mean? It's like it's just been in my DNA for life. So yeah, it's good. Let's see. At least your first wasn't some foul memes. There you go.
Respect.
That could have been rough. Let's see. Stephanie says, haven't seen Funhouse, but definitely going to watch it tonight. It's really good. Like, honestly, like, I don't know.
Let us know what you think, like whether it's next week or just drop a comment in one of the videos. I'm definitely curious. I'm excited for you to watch this.
Yeah, it's Toby Hooper too. So it's like, if you guys didn't know that, like that's director of the original Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, obviously you guys all should know that, but it's another slasher from him. And it's like, he's done a fair few slashers in his time, but like, I'd say this, okay, maybe comparing it to Texas Chainsaw might be blasphemous, but like, I'd say like it's Texas Chainsaw, this and Poltergeist are like his top 3 for me. And I know there's like, people love Salem's Lot. You know, I know there's an avid fan base for like Eaten Alive. I think that was him too, wasn't it?
I
Uh,
haven't seen that one. I don't think actually.
really? Yeah, that one's got oh Lord, Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund in it. He's
Bobby Ings.
yes, very early role. He's like feeding people to a crocodile. So
Oh, it's a crocodile film. Or what
kind
is
of.
it?
It's not. It has one, and he feeds people to it, but
Yeah, it
it's
is
more
Toby
of a
Hooper.
slasher. So yeah, it's interesting. I haven't seen it in a long time. I know I went in there, like hoping for it to be a crocodile movie, and of course, it's got a little bit more to it. Very fun. Let's see. Da, 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 da. I was born when Papyrus was all the rage. 2011, Avatar, baby. Let's go. Let's see here. I was born in 84. There were kids in high school who knew the exact time stamp for boobs in Titanic. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Let's see. Oh, No One Will Save You on Hulu. Pretty good. Luke actually covered that movie. He did a written review when we
Yeah,
first
that was
started doing those.
yeah when we first started doing them written reviews on our
Instagram.
Instagram. It was just one I had turned on. People were talking about it over the weekend. I think I was a little bit late to it because I don't know if it dropped that Friday but there was already some hype around it, so I think I watched it that Sunday and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. Didn't have sometimes things get overhyped. Obviously, we all know that. So I went into it with tempered expectations, but I was really blown away with the take on there, the tension they're able to build. And admittedly, I've only seen that one time, and I was really happy with it. It's one that I do have to revisit it because I think as time has gone on, people still bring it up. So I think it's got that staying power. And initially, it was a lot of fun in terms of that initial watch. So I'm excited to revisit that one. I think I may put that on my watch list for October this year, just because I just to give it a reason, because I think that one was a lot of fun. Dylan, you still haven't seen that, then, right?
I have not. No, I actually I have a list that I want to go back to just simply because I have movies on there that I want to watch. And that's one of them. It's like modern horror classics that I've missed or
Definitely
something.
recommend it.
I'm still fiddling with the title, but yeah, it's on there. It's one of the ones where it's like I want to get back to it. I want to circle it up because I've heard a lot of good things and a lot of the imagery that I've seen just from like pictures, people covering it or adding it to other lists. It's like you love it. It seems like it'd be up my alley. I don't really have an excuse. It just missed the boat for me, and I haven't circled back to it.
And in terms of the alien subgenre, I can't really think of too many over the past few years, other than that one that really had the staying power that kind of imprinted on my brain. I might be forgetting a couple, but that one certainly was. I think maybe I was a little hesitant going into it because I don't think this is going to hit like it's going to hit for a lot of people. But man, they made use of the concept and really built that tension. So yeah, Dylan, definitely check that one out when you have the time.
I certainly will. The first time I ever saw Eggplant in a movie was Pee-wee in the movie Porky's, and not exactly something I rewound to watch again. Yeah, no, I feel you. It's not not as fun, not as I guess eye catching as the ladies are. I guess it's a good time. I think it's one of those things like everybody has those moments, especially when you're like again in is middle school too is that about right? In middle school, early
Yeah,
high school, it's
probably.
like everybody gets all that curiosity, all those hormones start to grow, and it's just like everybody makes that mistake. Some of us are smarter than others. They don't they remember to rewind the tape or something. I was not, so I got played because I thought streaming was the future, but whatever. And then I did see something funny here. Erica, what are you talking about? There's no guy on the bottom. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, what? It's just us two here.
It's just us two here. Nah, Erica, that's our boy Adrian. If you don't know, I know he tends to sit silently with us for a while, but I did just want to say again for those of you who don't know, this is Adrian. He is our producer. So with this show, it was important to us that not only are we going to do it live, but I wanted to have a different feel where he can kind of not only have this presentation, but we can kind of bounce back and forth from those close-ups. And Adrian is lucky and wonderful enough to sit here and take some time out of his Sunday night and do that for us. Because if I was trying to do it, it would be a nightmare to try to do all of that and talk and keep up with chat all at the same time. So
also, he's kind of the eye candy here as well. That's why this being a visual medium, we needed that kind of ringer in here, so we had to bring Adrian in.
Like the
Absolutely.
background guy, moderator, just, texture, color, part of the presentation.
Yeah, I joked with him when I proposed this idea to him, is like, you will be the Jamie for our Joe Rogan experience that is Sunday Scaries. We have just as much sway and importance.
Yeah, I just gotta get quicker at looking stuff up.
You're good, brother. No one will save you. No one will save us from the stereotypical gray alien trope. Even then, possibilities are literally endless, but I still enjoy the film. Didn't even notice the limited dialogue until I watched a review. That's interesting. I do think that's cool. Like, if you can go through a movie and not really recall that, like, hardly anybody talked in that. Like, that's just, again, shows that, like, visual storytelling, at least, is on point for it. So
Yeah, you're so focused on the instance. Now, I did notice the scarcity of dialogue when I was watching it. I think maybe someone had pointed that out even prior to me watching it, so I can't say that it was just me.
Gabe
Realizing
Lomoto. Here he says, bro, you got me into watching movies. I've never been a fan, but now I started appreciating art of all things. Oh, thank you. That's wild that we did that. That's insane.
Beautiful.
We just love being nerds. Like, we just love talking about all kinds of goofy shit. So thank you for enjoying it and taking what we say so seriously. That's awesome. Yes, I asked because he's super quiet. Wasn't sure if he's supposed to be there. He's just our little voyeur. He's just watching, making sure that he's from YouTube, making sure we don't make any more mistakes. There you go. Anguish is worth it. Think the real truth or dare. Okay. All right. I'll check that out for sure. All right, Luke. Now that we've gotten through a lot of questions, we've answered some fun stuff. I've told some embarrassing stories. You've talked about meeting some celebrities. Why don't we dive into either our topics or the movie? I'm gonna let you pick, since this is the first go around with all the Hell House movies. If you want to start with that, or if you want to dive into the news first. I know we don't have a lot of stories, so it just kind of, I think we can kind of toss up here. What would you like to do?
Yeah, well, I feel like the Hell House stuff is going to be probably the bulk of it. So why don't we get into the review of the original, and then why don't we just hop into Lineage? We can kind of just tee that one up, since I don't know if we're going to have the review out this week or maybe next week. I'm not sure, but that one's coming to the channel fairly soon, since we already have the screener. So why don't we hop in to a review of the original Hell House?
Absolutely. So for those of you who have not seen Hell House LLC, it's from 2015, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yes, you can still watch it from what IMDb says right now on Shudder, Tubi, Roku, Pluto, and Plex. So and Screenbox at the moment. So if you have not seen it and you have any interest in it, feel free to join us here probably in about 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes maybe, and we should be wrapping it up there if you don't want anything spoiled for you. But I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that if you haven't seen it or you're not into it, maybe found footage isn't really your thing, and this might actually sway you into it, because surprisingly enough, I can open up and say that Hell House, the first film, was a movie that's I knew pretty much everything going into it, because like it was one that had been spoiled for me. People had brought it up on lists and other things before, so I kind of knew all the scary bits. But it's a completely different animal when you actually sit down and experience it, because I think that the beauty of this first movie, and why I actually think it's pretty damn creepy, it's definitely the subtlety. They play with subtlety. They're not trying to sit there and hit you with jump scare after jump scare, and they're not throwing so many, with an asterisk, over the top moments till the very end. And I think that that's why this movie has actually lived in my head rent free for the last few years since I saw it. There's a handful of particular scenes that get my respect all out, because I shouldn't have been scared of it, but it sat with me. It made me look at clowns a little differently for a little bit.
It's got a lot of great imagery to it. And like I said a little bit earlier, it was one that I hadn't watched until Dylan was talking about it and kind of got me interested in it. And again, being found footage wasn't really my thing, but as we started the channel and got a few more current found footage properties under our belt, it started making me see the expansiveness of really the potential of found footage and what you can really do with it. And I think Hell House LLC there is really one of those films that lives up to that kind of potential in terms of being able to tell a different kind of story and building that tension to it. I was just going to bring this up. Perfect picture there. I was like,
Yep.
that shot of just right down there in the basement and how they kind of dissect the handprints, things like that, for me was perfect. That is an image that is burned into my brain when I think of Hell House. And it was, but prior to seeing this film, I saw the imagery of the clown. I was like, okay, that's interesting, but scary clowns, that's a layup in the horror genre. So it wasn't anything that was going to really push me to get into the actual film. But when they kind of are opening the groundwork, laying the foundation, and they kind of showed this picture here for me, it just has a sense of eeriness to it without really showing too much of anything. It's just like, yeah, when we hop into it and we're kind of understanding the concept of what exactly happened, but we're not deep diving into every little nook and cranny just yet. And then they lay on this picture here. It just, there are scenes that give you a little bit, kind of goosebumps, makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. This is one of those pictures when you're realizing that something big really happened, but they're more so teasing it than anything else. I think this shot here in this composition is so well done.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, I believe this shot here is from the opening when they're just going through and kind of explaining everything. Because like the way they circle back to this later, it's horrifying. And I think the thing that really works for me on this one too is just like they do a really good job of, again, not many movies do it. I have to shout it out when they do, but it's making it feel like Halloween in the Midwest. Like it's just one of those things where it's like you feel when these people are walking around setting up this Halloween story, setting up this or haunted house, you really do feel like we're living in like that, late August, September, October time period. And I think that this movie just feels like that. It reminds me of that era, that time. And I think that's another big plus to this, because like certain movies, like one that we always talk about, always compliment, we talked about a little bit earlier, Halloween 4. The opening credits to Halloween 4 just feel like Halloween. And this movie does a great job of doing that as well. Dean here says the Hell House series, such a great one. Yes, absolutely. We also got Shutter says, I wouldn't go down there with a hammer. Yes, I get it. Definitely stay armed. We'll get into that in a little bit. Should I watch the director's cut of Hell House LLC? I would say so, Russell. It's widely available. I think it's also on Tubi. I think you can watch the theatrical or the director's cut. But it's not like a huge difference, but it definitely, they add a couple things, and I think it's worth it at this point because it's so widely available. Let's see. It was Fun House.
The Fun House.
Yeah,
Toby
the
Hooper.
Fun House. Toby Hooper. What did we say? 80 what?
1980.
All four of the original director's cuts are on Shudder. Oh, awesome. Perfect. So yeah, everything's available on Shudder. I love clowns. My living room is decorated with porcelain clown dolls and clown masks. My kids hate them. They refuse to sleep on the couch. Mama Mayhem, remind me never, for whatever reason, even if we're coming in town for a convention, to ever come and spend the night at your house. I will never do that. That is terrifying. Like too many clowns. Let's see. That staring picture, cooking companions. Okay, gotcha. There you go. And let's see. Funhouse isn't on Tubi, Stephanie, but Funhouse Massacre is though. Oh, weird. It says it's on. It said so on IMDb. They lied to me, those suckers. Anyway,
the internet lied.
It is. When does that ever happen? But yeah, this movie, I mean, let's just get right into kind of the setup here, the plot synopsis, all that. Like giving you guys an idea if you're unfamiliar, and those of you obviously are. Hell House is essentially about this team of people. They're kind of well known for making these not necessarily extreme haunted houses, but haunted houses that kind of raise the stakes, raise the bar. This, however, is kind of their redemption shot. They need to make this one a success. The year before, they apparently got a real ambitious, and they kind of, let some things fall to the wayside, and it didn't pan out for them. They don't dive too deep into what exactly happened, but they do certainly hint at this a lot, that this is kind of a redemption year for them. They need to make this work. So they come to this place. It's this old Abaddon Hotel is what it's called. And it has this old legend about this guy who murdered a bunch of people in there, standard ghost house story stuff. And what ends up happening is we just follow kind of the behind the scenes as you would any other stereotypical kind of, found footage movie. We're watching this one guy, one of their friends, walk around and record people, interview people. We get to see them casting locals and doing all kinds of fun stuff. And as this is going on, it just subtly in the background, things are getting more and more sinister. There's one particular character. Oh my God, why can't I think of her name? Who is it, Luke? Is it I forget her name. I just, everybody's blurring together here, but she is having is it Melissa?
I think it is Sarah? I think it's Melissa.
Okay. One of the two ladies they bring with them on there, they end up having some really, I think Dean's right. Sarah might be right, actually.
Is it Sarah?
I think it's Sarah.
They don't have a picture of her.
Yeah, I'd have to, if we're going through this, I'll be able to tell. She's been, since they got to the actual haunted house, she's been acting very strange, very off. A lot of weird things. She starts walking into, people's rooms at night, which offers some very creepy moments. Like, let's just get into that scene alone. Our main guy here, one of our main characters, he's just kind of recording himself sleeping, just kind of like, not sleeping, but just getting ready for bed, interviewing himself, talking about, whatever's been going on, some of the drama behind the scenes. And Sarah just walks in and just stares at him in his doorway. And he's like, yo, Sarah, what's up? Everything cool? Just stares at him, nothing. Walks away. And then we kind of come back to this several times during the movie. And you just, every time you get there, it gets a little bit creepier, a little bit more unsettling. It all really comes to a head later on in the film. But like, just honestly, I don't know why. It's just, again, the beauty of this movie. It's so dirt fucking simple, but I don't know, those scenes just really got under my skin, watching her like sitting across the room from him, just not talking. And obviously I think the stakes are there because they're friends, that he's knows her very well, and she's just completely in a trance, completely off in another world, possessed.
And I think that's part of the eeriness to it, because like you're saying, they're all friends, they all have this rapport. And us as an audience, we're coming into this to watch a horror film, but then you feel the casualness between our characters here. So when Sarah walks into the room, he doesn't think anything of it, but us being in that headspace of, hey, we're watching a horror movie, we're kind of on guard. And we're kind of, it's one of those moments of, you better watch your back because something odd is going on here. And I think being able to build that tension is what Hell House LLC does so well, because they use that to their advantage in terms of us knowing that things should be off, but then, and we should kind of, our characters are at risk, but they have no idea. So it's like, we're already on guard. When Sarah's in there, we can tell something's off, but he's playing it off as normal because, hey, he has rapport with her, doesn't really think anything of it. And I think those moments there of, obviously the clown is so iconic, and when we're kind of walking through the house and he sees the clown up and moving, I think right at the top of the stairs or whatever, standing there, and he thinks it's someone else. And we know it's not. And I love those elements there, because we're kind of just like building and building that tension of things are off. And what we get like jump scares, but building that tension to think we're going to get a jump scare and then we don't. And then a little while later, we do get a jump scare. It really kept me on edge as I was watching this film.
It keeps the unpredictability of, the stereotypical things like jump scares, or even just like you use that scene as an example of like, we see somebody or this clown, one of these statuette kind of like mannequin clowns that they have in the basement area, kind of the final stage of the haunted house before you exit, is there. And, we've been seeing shots of it this whole time. It's really creepy. We have him right here, obviously. This is our main boy right here, this ugly bastard. I hate him. And
they don't have names, right? Like
no, I don't believe so. We've never really named them, I don't think, unless anybody in the chat knows if they've got anything. Yeah, it's one of those things where they set it up as kind of just a nothing burger, and then just a couple scenes later, you're watching our character. I think it's one of the main guy is walking through, and he's looking for his buddy Paul, I believe it was, and he's walking around. He bumps into some people in the hallway just on his way through the haunted house. You're seeing all the setup with the lights on, so you see all the little decorations, all this stuff, and I really like it because you're getting to kind of see how the fudge is made in a sense. You're going to see how they're making all of their scares, and it's different than what we normally get when it comes to this stuff. Like, we usually are the ones experiencing the haunted house, and then when he gets to the top of the steps here, he just kind of turns the corner, and there's just a dude like in the clown costume standing there, and it's played for laughs, but it's very creepy and unsettling because the thing that they did so well is there's no eyes in the mask. It's all darkness behind there. Very Michael Myers inspired there, where you don't see anything behind that. And at first you do think, okay, he's just playing a prank on him. Obviously, the audience, we can suspect a little bit more. The brilliance of this is that he's just like, all right, man, whatever, you're being a weirdo. He turns around, he goes back through the house, and the second he comes back to that group of people, the person, Paul, who he thought was in that costume, is standing right fucking there. And I don't know, like, I'm not going to ride home and say that the acting is incredible in this movie or anything, but his reaction, oh my God, like his voice, you hear the tremble in his voice. He sold it so well in that scene. That is the scene that just sticks with me throughout this movie. There's a couple more later on involving the clowns as well, but like that one in particular was like, I get why people love this franchise. I get why people love this movie in particular, because it's simple. It should not scare me as much as it is, but it is.
And that's why I think I like this film so much, is because when we're setting up those clowns, at in the basement, and they're kind of just sitting there, you're already expecting some sort of jump scare. And I was like, okay, we're probably just going to get some sort of cheap jump scare that's just going to, just amount to really nothing other than me jumping out of my seat. But then I love that they built that tension and composed that scene there. I thought that was one of the scenes where I sat here and said, oh, this feels like something a little bit different. And when we take advantage of the found footage aspect, I think that is a scene you can point to and say they really did build a lot of perfect tension that I don't know necessarily if you would have in a basic narrative where it's more cinematic, but I think being able to do that where, a guy's running a camera, building that instance, and then building, like you said, you can hear it in the audio of him kind of realizing kind of what's going on, and maybe he should be on edge more than he thought he should be, and maybe something's off here at the hotel. I think that was a turning point for me, where I was already had that creep factor, but I think that ups the ante a little bit. We do get that throughout the film itself, where they really do make use of it. And I want to bring this up here, and I was trying to look it up. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, so I apologize for bringing this up. But Dylan, you remember this? I watched this after the fact, where we did a review. It's called Spooktacular. It's like Spooky World. It's a documentary on it.
Yeah, we have the review up on here. It's
on
great.
the channel. I tried to look to see if it was streaming anywhere. Unfortunately, it's not. I don't even know if it's like a physical copy. Yeah. But it was like watching that and how they do Spooky World and some of the instances that they've had dealt with, being in this giant haunted house, really put me in a different headspace when I first watched Hell House, because it's like, they're setting up this haunted house, and we already know some of the instances that have actually happened if you ever watch that Spooktacular documentary. And this one kind of just put me in that headspace of being a little bit more on edge than I thought I would have been going into this kind of unprompted if I hadn't seen that documentary.
Yeah, dude, Spooktacular is such a good example because you have that same feeling. Because the piece that I skipped over and I intentionally wanted to save till later, after we kind of get the lay of the land, talk about what the scares are, is that this movie has like kind of an overarching narrative outside of just the footage we're watching. And it's a documentary about this horrific event that happened at this haunted house. It's about the Hell House events. And it's a really great way to set the stage. So it kind of blends that kind of mockumentary, documentary, found footage stuff. It's all kind of a hodgepodge. And I think they do it really effectively. And yes, this is the movie Luke is talking about. I found their official website here. Really great doc, excellent doc. So I don't know when this thing is supposed to be, coming out or whatever. We loved it. We gave it a really
I
high
can't believe it's
rating.
not out. Like,
I know it's
I thought
crazy.
for sure it would have been by now. It is an exceptional documentary.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the best in my opinion when it comes to talking about something that a topic as a horror fan, as somebody who loves Halloween and shit. I didn't even know that Spooky Land was a thing. I had no clue that there was just this huge, giant, like haunted house amusement park that was just being built every single year. And, it talks about that. It talks about how they did it, how it evolved, and then unfortunately, how it all fell apart. And I think it's excellent. So we have a review up on the channel for it. But if you love stuff like this, Hell House is going to feel even better because like it does touch you in a sense of like, I'm a horror fan. I'm a fan of Halloween. I love haunted houses, all that. And it's like, it's getting to live in that and then be genuinely terrified of it. So it's really, really well done.
Yeah. And like you said, Halloween in the Midwest, this one just has those vibes somehow that you get them through the lens. I think I commend the filmmaking here because we have like the haunted schoolhouse, haunted laboratory, here locally, and just a plethora of different kind of haunted houses that you can go to and really have that aura that, it feels like fall. You're ready to be scared. And I think you get that same thing with Hell House LLC, where, it's presented as a real event, a kind of a mockumentary and of sorts, where they're kind of chronicling each different event and kind of saving what exactly happened toward the end before we get to the really deep supernatural stuff. And it really gets you in that headspace. It makes it feel real and really kind of just gets you set. And again, when we talk about essential October viewing, Hell House LLC is definitely up there.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for something fresh, if you're looking for something that feels exciting and new and is, again, the beauty of it is the subtlety. I think as long as you go in there, and it's hard to talk about this movie so positively and not overhype it, I feel.
Yeah.
But like, I just think like if you are a fan of this, if you want something that feels like, Halloween, that feels like October and will get you into that Halloween spirit, Hell House is a great one to watch, like September leading into October. It's one that's got some scares. Now, if I'm going to be critical, if I'm going to lay any criticism at the feet of this film, this is major spoilers. I'm not crazy about the cult. I'm not crazy about the look. I'm not crazy about the ending. I think that you go a hair too far in that direction with me. It's one of those ones where this does become a problem with this series up until number 4, in my opinion. I know I will get pushback from some people for that, but I do feel like the cults with the hoods and everything, I just feel like it's a big idea for something that, again, was doing such a great job at being scary and just being subtle and trusting the audience. I feel like they felt like they needed to really pop off on the end, and I just don't know if you needed it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, since I haven't seen the other ones, I can't say really how it fits into the rest of the franchise. I guess that'll be to be determined when we get to the other installments. I didn't necessarily find it out of place. I was just like, okay, that's the route we're going to go in. We were getting into the supernatural elements already, so I wasn't sure what I should be prepared for as we got deeper into it. So, I guess I came to terms with it. It didn't really stick out like a sore thumb for me. I was just kind of more accepting at that point. The ending really does go balls to the wall, and at that point, I wasn't sure how many different things we're going to get, I guess, as we were going throughout the rest of the film, because I was like, oh, okay, and then I was like, oh, we're still going on a little bit. So, it wasn't necessarily out of place. I can see where you're saying maybe it's a little different, a little interesting choice, but I want to see how it does fit in with the rest of the franchise. I'm a little less concerned saying you kind of rectify it in that 4th installment. So I guess I'll see how it goes. It didn't necessarily, I'm not, you didn't say it killed the film for it, but it certainly didn't kill it for me. Because I was like, I was prepared to go into the supernatural elements to it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's one way to wrap up the story, at least for this installment.
Yeah, and you know, I think that Dean says exactly how I feel too, where it's like it's one of those things where it's like, as I've watched the film, it's not like as jarring as that first watch. Is it something that like I'm fully ever going to just be like, oh yeah, I love it? Probably not. But I think like the film builds so much goodwill and does so many things like better than I expected them to do, that like it is something I can easily forgive and look past. Because again, for me, who isn't huge on this, there are people who love it, who think, yeah, it makes sense. And I'm not sitting here saying it doesn't. Like it's one of those things where it's like, here, we have Morehouse 423 says, I liked it myself. In my opinion, the whole series is class. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think it necessarily hurt the franchise for a lot of people. It didn't bother them. As we go along, my relationship with this series gets a little bit more complicated, but I still sit here at the end of all of it saying Hell House is one of my favorite films to recommend to people, especially horror fans, and especially again people who just love the culture and like the vibe of haunted houses, Halloween, that era, that spooky time that we all look forward to every fall. Like it is something that I would say makes my short list for if you want to feel like, if you want to sit down on Halloween and watch like 5 movies that are scary, that are cool, that'll just get you into those Halloween feels, Hell House is certainly one of those for me. And I definitely recommend it to people, even though I have my issues with where the story went.
And I think this one, at least for me, gets a couple of bonus points just because found footage being a harder sell in general. And
True.
then, I did a list on found footage films months upon months ago, and going into like the forums and getting recommendations for a lot of found footage stuff, and people saying, oh, this is like epically scary, and then watching it and saying, it's okay. It's not like something that chilled me to the bone. And then seeing something like Hell House that really makes use of its potential in the found footage and really does make you feel scared at points, really being able to build that tension. I think from that found footage subgenre gets a couple extra bonus points just because I think it's a little bit harder to do, especially because it's like, at least from my viewings of some found footage stuff, there's only really like a handful of really scary found footage stuff. And I think, there is a lot of potential there to use stuff in the background, those quick cuts, things like that, and make it feel natural. And I think Hell House certainly has a handle on that, because there are an abundance of actually chilling scenes in here that get you prepared for when all hell does break loose toward the end, and we kind of get really deep into those supernatural elements.
Yeah, I think personally it's one of those ones where, again, if you've been on the fence, just give it a shot. It's a breeze to watch. It's like, what does it say here? It's an hour and like at 20 minutes, isn't it? It's like super short, 33 minutes. It's like just barely over the hour and a half mark. And I think that's the director's cut. So it's one of those things where it's like, for me, you're not necessarily committing a bunch of time. I think that it's, again, the beauty is in the simplicity of it and just committing to it. And for that, I think that it's certainly one of those franchises that deserves its praise. It deserves the hype that it gets. And I'm excited to talk about the next couple because, again, I might make some of you mad and I'm ready for that. But like, I still will sit here and I want to remind everybody that I still think this franchise deserves all the love that it gets. I still think that there is, something in every one of these that I love, even though I think where we go with it gets a little rocky for me, but I will save that for next week because Hell House 2015, the original Hell House LLC is certainly a must watch. Go out, check it out, especially again around Halloween. It'll certainly give you those creepy chills running up your spine.
Absolutely, and for me, if we were putting a rating on it, I'd say it's an easy recommend. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun viewing, has a handle on the tension. I establishes great lore as well, and makes you eager to see the sequel. Certainly, after we jump off here tonight, I will be watching the second one and to actually give that a thorough watch through. I know Penelope mentioned in the chat there she enjoyed Frogman, and hell yes.
I was about to say, some people are dropping some really good recommendations here. House at October Built's also a really good one.
Yes.
Maybe if you guys really like this, as we dive a little closer to Halloween, we could maybe talk about those two as well on here.
And I saw the first one there. I kept getting this mixed up with Hell House
It happens.
I was like,
it happens. It is because this one's great because it's like if I remember correctly, one of the things they do with House at October Built, it's been a while because I watched this and then obviously Behind the Mask, Leslie Vernon around the same time. So I was in a big mockumentary thing here. The thing is like they're telling a spooky story, but they're visiting real haunted houses, aren't they?
I think so. Again, I watched House October Built. Like, I think this one may have been on Netflix at one point. I think I was just perusing, and that's where I watched it. It was like a cold watch at one point. This was way back when, like maybe 2017, that I had gave this an initial watch, and then I kept thinking I watched Hell House, and I was like, oh nope, it was the House that October Built. So I don't remember too much about it. It would probably be like me going in and having a completely fresh watch of that one, just because it's been at the very least 6 years since I had seen that one. So, but I think it has a similar concept because I kept getting them confused.
Yeah, it's a really weird series. They take a huge like left turn with the house that Jack built, I assume is the third one. That movie was very different. I don't know what was going on with that
We
one.
go to hell? Sign me up.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. If you guys have not seen that one, that's one that I've recommended a handful of times because that's a wild one.
Seeing that one in the theater was a really, really good time. I still enjoyed that film.
I do too. It's like it's really the only I almost said Yorgos Lanthimos. That's Lars von Trier movie that I truly think I can sit back and like watch again and again, just because again it's like the modern American Psycho. It's like the new American Psycho for me. It goes harder, it goes bigger. Last 20 minutes can, suck a dick in my opinion, but that's fine.
Yeah. It was still, we've talked about it on the channel a couple times, but I don't think ever on the stream. We have like a little art house theater here locally called the Nightlight. And I saw that. That was one of my top watches along with My Friend Dahmer, where there's the two that were just perfect. I love it. And those two were probably my favorite watches there. Just something about being able to see those types of film at like a little art house theater is completely unmatched.
Yeah, that was one I saw. I'll never forget when I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer at that theater. It was like a Saturday morning because it was like they're very weird with how they were doing their times there for a minute. Sometimes, I guess maybe when they were like packed up with movies around award season, they would show some at like noon or like 11 a.m. And I went there and saw Killing of a Sacred Deer by myself in the theater. It was me and then the two employees who were like, standing at the thing. They walked in, it just sat in the back of the theater and we all just watched it. I was the only person there and I was absorbed by that movie. That's an experience to watch that one all by yourself in a theater. I'll never forget it.
I remember when we just randomly both showed up to a showtime of the Florida Project at the Nightlight, and it was just us in there watching it late at night. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting watch. But I love when we have a theater like that, a small art house theater to yourself.
Yeah, it's like I always say, just like anybody else, support your local businesses, support your local theaters. If you have a little tiny indie art house theater and they're doing their best to get the spooky stuff that we can't always get readily available to us because, we got to get those Marvel movies in the big theaters. Got to get them out there, boys. Then this is a good one. That's definitely something worth supporting. I was the only person in the theater when Texas Chainsaw 3. Oh boy, good Lord. That's a fun one. And I'm a defender of Chainsaw 2. That's another thing that we'll have to dive into a little bit more at some point is I will ride or die for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Luke and I heavily disagree on that.
Yeah, a lot of people will. I've tried to give that one a watch a couple times and still doesn't hit with me, but I have horrible relationship between horror and comedy, so not surprised.
There we go. Yep, TCM2. It's nothing like the first. It'll never live up to the first. It's just a different animal in and of itself, and that's really how I was able to come to it and enjoy it.
I feel like my opinion is the more unpopular opinion of the two.
You feel like it takes away from the first movie?
No. I feel like more people like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 than dislike it.
It's I think it's getting the Halloween 3 treatment. Many people said that movie was terrible, and now the last 10 years, people love Halloween 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, because I run into more opinions of liking Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 rather than disliking it, and that's why I'm always like, it's been a couple years. Let me give it a watch, and then still just doesn't hit. You know, I can't get over that chainsaw.
Or the battle.
No, at the radio station.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah,
It
when
is
he's
just
humping
like,
the chainsaw. Okay,
yeah, I'm
I
like,
get you.
what the hell's going on here?
It's goofy. It is what it is. Again, Toby Hooper, he was like, I'm doing something wild with this one. And that's the weirder part about that movie, is that it is Toby Hooper. Usually people come back and they want to do something very faithful to what they started. But nope, he was like, we're going the opposite way with this. We're gonna
And
have some fun.
I don't want to dive too deep into it, but I will bring it up just because it's kind of almost a natural segue, where Osgood Perkins was asked about Texas Chainsaw and what was upcoming with that at San Diego Comic-Con. And I mean, he said he hadn't heard anything thus far, but interesting, and just to note is that when he was coming up with a pitch, the people who own it, the creators that own it, gave him a guidebook that said things we like, things we dislike. You know, one of the big things was Leatherface does not have a love interest in that. That's what we dislike. And it's just interesting. You know, he said he really did enjoy that they have this kind of likes, dislikes, things that are important to us in things, kind of guiding you as to where they want to go with the franchise, which seems like to be unusual nowadays, to be like, okay, these are some of the guidelines of what we would like to see in our follow-ups or sequels.
Well, dude, they got to. Like, I mean, this series has been rebooted and just remade to death. Like, just in the last 10 years, we've had 3 different versions of this, haven't we?
I think yeah, we've had Leatherface, Texas. What was the last?
Texas Chainsaw 3D, Leatherface, and then this one.
Yeah, and Texas Chainsaw 3D was like in 2013, I think, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then Leatherface was in 2017. So
yeah,
they weren't that far apart.
Yeah, I thought you said this past decade. It was
past 20 years. Fine, Luke. I mean,
there we go.
I just feel like this franchise is getting rebooted too much. I feel like we keep going back to the drawing board just to do the same shit. So it's like,
absolutely.
what are we doing?
That's why it's like, come on. And even with a guidebook, well, I guess I think the guidebook is new, but it's like, yeah, you have to have that to be like, okay, we don't get farther down these avenues to be like, these things suck.
Yeah. We're getting a question here. Morehouse says thoughts on the Poughkeepsie tapes and its lore. Poughkeepsie tapes. Fine. Luke, you take that one away, because I am going to plead the fifth on this one. I have a list that I'm circling the barrel on within the next couple of weeks to months, and I'd love to get it out. So,
I revisited that one for my found footage list for a few months ago, and there was a fresh watch for me. I never watched it. Now, I'll say, for me, does it all work? No, but I think there are some really terrifying instances. I see more negative opinions on this than I thought I was going to, but there are some like very I don't know, mentally draining scenes. The one that I always go back to is when he is I'm forgetting her name, but the lady he abducts, and he's making her say her name is Slave and all this stuff. For me, that stuck with me after the viewing. Like, I remember watching that one evening and then waking up the next morning and thinking about that scene, and I was just like, how screwed up is that scene? And I have a daughter, and I'm like, being a parent and thinking of your child in a situation like that, I think just puts you in this weird perspective of things, to be like, I wasn't even scared for myself, but it's just like, kind of like scared for my daughter to be out in a world where something like this could exist. And I think for me, that just kind of put me on this level of unnerving that I hadn't really felt in a horror film in a very long time. And I think that's why that film kind of sits with me a little bit more than I think maybe with a lot of people, especially if you haven't watched it in a long time. Maybe there are some scenes in there that you can think are hokey, but when you really watch that film, and there are some really, really terrifying scenes in there that are just get burned into your brain, because I still think about that scene. And I think, there's not an overabundance of scary scenes in there, but when they make them count, I think they really do. And that being found footage, I think it hits on a different level of authentism, how authentic it can feel than, just seeing something that's a little more cinematic.
Yeah, it's forgive me, getting a little sleepy. This is I do need to hold my tongue because I have a lot to say on that because that list is going to be a lot to say. So I plead the fifth. We'll talk about it later. But let's see. We had a couple pieces of news here we wanted to touch on. I know we have Welcome to Derry had some footage shown at SDC. I know there's a handful of tiny morsel stories that I just wanted to run your way before we drop into that, Luke. I was looking through. We were going back and forth earlier today trying to circle up on kind of what we talk about it. Relatively slow news week, I would say. I feel
Yeah.
like for the most part, the biggest things we got, like I did want to touch on this. I think we did get to see it before together. A lot of other people did as well. But Shelby Oaks just has its debut trailer dropping on Monday. That's the Chris Stuckman horror film that's been in production for quite a while. So that gets to come out. We saw a little teaser. Looks very cool, very spooky. How are your thoughts on that there, Luke?
I'm excited for it. I deliberately left that one off the rundown because I knew the trailer was coming out. Because I think we'll have more extensive thoughts coming into probably next weekend. Us being locals to Chris Stuckman as well, I think we'll probably have. We're very eager to see that one and kind of discuss a couple things. I know Dylan has some things to discuss regarding it, and I think that'll be a little bit fun. Once we can really disclose a lot of things. But I'm excited for it. I think it had a handle great on the eerie atmosphere. I'm excited to see where this is going to lead. I was a little concerned just because it's been such a long time coming for this film. But then, finding out Mike Flanagan's attached, and I know they were going to do some reshoots and things like that. I got a little more excited for it because it's just been, it seems like it's been a very long process for this film.
Yeah, I did see his interview that he did at SDC, and then I don't know if I can really talk about that.
Well, we can always save it. I mean,
Yeah, we should probably save that part.
we're
All I'll
excited.
say, yeah, all I'll say is that yeah, there's a conversation was had recently, and I talked about it with him, and the thing that was eager and exciting to hear was that the stuff from Neon is apparently the money they put towards it was additions for things that they couldn't finish
Yeah.
before, which is great. I was like, I saw that in an article, and then just talking to him, he was able to confirm that for me, and I was like, all right, cool, awesome. That's a really good sign because that just means that like Neon was like, hey, what more do you want to add to this? And they thought, okay, that's going to definitely boost the film. Let's do it. So that's one of those things where I was like, dude, like that's only good signs for me. So
yeah, I'm excited for it. I think we were excited even prior to production of the film, just because Chris Stuckman, I mean, seems like he's got a great handle on horror stuff. I mean, we've talked to him before, and just being able to see someone, especially come from YouTube, and be able to create something of their own. And
I'd say that's the biggest thing for us is like
yeah,
those guys, him, Raka, it's making it more achievable because obviously, we're no slouches to it. It's like we would love to be making movies. Like we have ideas, we have stories. So the fact that people are getting out there who are like, yeah, I started off on YouTube, I built a following, I made movies for my audience on here, and they pushed it to the ability to make a full-blown feature. That's huge. Like the fact that it's happening nowadays. Like it was just a dream like 15 years ago.
making it way more accessible because we hear about stories. It's kind of a stigma going from YouTube to filmmaking over to it's a YouTuber wanting to make a film. How serious can they really be? But as we're kind of seeing that avenue get paved by so many people, and then it's just going to be such an accessible avenue. I think when you look 5 years down the line, who knows, maybe even sooner, depending on how some of these films hit. I mean, you look at Talk to Me, Bring Her Back. I know those are maybe exaggerated examples. I don't know. But both those hitting the way that they're hitting and really just being able to put a chokehold on a general audience in terms of scares and tension and being a pristine horror film. Shelby Oaks, I'm excited for. That comes out in October. I think it's going to be a pretty big win. So we're
Hopefully,
probably
yeah.
biased, but I think we're probably going to look at it fairly positively. We'll do an unbiased review, certainly, just so we know. But either way, we're going to be excited about it, and being able to, if we are able to discuss it with Chris Stuckman, would be phenomenal. So to be determined, anything like that. But it would be great to be able to pick his brain, understand the process, things like that, even in interviews, stuff like that. So I'm certainly excited.
Yeah, and I see the general sentiment from people seems to be positive. I mean, it's a teaser, so like if you guys have seen together, you probably saw it. So you don't get too much, but you get a decent amount of like the vibe and the overall eeriness and the feel. And yeah, it's just weird, it's like seeing directed by Chris Stuckman after all these years of just like growing up watching his stuff on YouTube. It's so weird to see that. But again, it was strange going into Talk to Me with the Filippo brothers and being like, these are the guys who made the Ronald McDonald videos. Really? That's crazy. And now they have 2 movies that I absolutely adore. So it's like, it can happen. It's weird. Maybe we'll get to make a movie. I don't know. It'll probably fall apart before we do that. Luke and I'll hate each other by then.
Oh, I already hate you.
I know. We already have it split up. So that way, when we do have to split this off, he takes cast, I take splatter. It's the whole thing. So
Dylan's always a splatter guy.
I'm a splatter boy. I like to be splatter. I'm sorry. Anyway, one thing I did want to touch on, I know I won't touch on this very deep, but I do want to keep it going because nobody's talking about this, and I'm a geek and I read the book, and we have a connection because we already talked a little bit about this one today. But we have Whale Fall sets an October 2026 release date. Check this movie out, or check this book out if you like to read, if you like stories about survival that almost have this kind of cosmic horror is the wrong thing to say, but like there's some downright terrifying descriptions and just like imagery in that book that if they translate this right, this might be one of the scariest movies ever for me specifically, and anybody else who has thalassophobia, because like this book, the general synopsis is that like a diver, just this young 20 something, he goes out into the ocean and accidentally gets swallowed by a whale, like a giant sperm whale. But it's no like Jonah and the whale or anything like that. It gets into the details and the grossness of what it's like to actually be stuck inside of a whale. Like they have 3 stomach chambers, just all the stuff that you would never consider having to deal with, stomach acid, things that don't break down in it. It's terrifying. And it is one of the most like emotionally resonant stories like I've read in a long time. Again, I think that one was like the same year I read Pet Cemetery. I had that story, and like both of those, just when it comes to just being a parent or anybody who's dealt with trauma or anybody who's kind of had a rocky relationship with a parent, which I haven't had. I love my dad, but like if you are somebody who's like just had an interesting or maybe kind of an awkward relationship with somebody that you've almost felt like you should have had, it shouldn't have been that way, this will talk to you. I know that's a very weird way of saying it, but I don't want to like spoil too much because like that's the part that shocked me. Like, yes, the actual story of him getting swallowed is terrifying, but it's the father-son relationship in that book that's so heartbreaking. I love it.
This is a father and son tale, or is
It
that
is.
a spoiler? Oh, okay,
it is. Yeah, it's up front with you. Josh Brolin too. They have playing the father. Perfect casting for that. I cannot wait.
I love Josh.
I know.
Joshua Brolin.
He's gonna be a full Thanos. Get out.
I would love that big old golden glove and all. But I'm intrigued by it. I haven't read the story. Maybe I will. Is this a short story? Or is this an actual novel?
It's an actual novel, but it's I think it's only like 200-300 pages.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not bad. It's really, you can get through it. But yeah, it's not a very big book, but they're certainly worth reading. I would say anybody who has an interest. Whale Fall.
I'm excited to see some the set pieces they can present here, and this is from the director of No One Will Save.
That was, right? Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yep, director of No One Will Save You. So that's why it's like, hey, got to bring this one up. Perfect timing.
Yeah. So I think that could be exciting to see what they present there. It could be a really intriguing story. I don't think I've seen anything like this in terms of the presentation. So hopefully they really make it unique and make use of the concept, which I can't see them not. I mean, if you're going to translate the novel into a story, you really have to make use of the concept. So I'm hoping we get some very interesting set pieces. I'm ready for the Poseidon adventure inside of a whale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it, there are some like I said, I don't want to get too deep into it, but there are some things in there, some scenes that if they do right, they're going to disgust some people. Like like I said, you don't think about it when you think about getting swallowed by a whale. I feel like everybody has the same imagery of like, Pinocchio, or like again Jonah and the whale, stuff like that. There's It's not that simple. It's really not that simple, and it's gross, and I'm excited to see it. I hope and pray they actually nail this one. But the last little piece of news, just to jump us into here before we get into the big story and then wrap the show up, I did think that we had to mention this. I think it kind of flew under both of our radars until I was actually looking for the articles we were going to talk about here. But they actually quietly confirmed over the weekend here that John Krasinski will be returning to direct A Quiet Place Part 3, and it will be coming out in summer 2027. So, Luke, how are you feeling about that? Are we excited for that one?
I did actually see this when I was perusing the news. Fine. Okay. We'll see what they present. I'm not the biggest fan of A Quiet Place 2. I think that's why maybe I'm a little less excited about this, maybe. Just because I know John Krasinski had come out and said, we're not going to do A Quiet Place 2 unless we have a really intriguing story. We have to have a reason to. And I never felt that connection with A Quiet Place 2. It really did feel like, I think sometimes elements of how we see The Walking Dead in the elements that we get there. So it never really hit as much. It's not a horribly crafted film, or it's not a dumpster fire of a film. It just didn't have the connection I had when I went and saw the original. I didn't really see the justification of having a sequel. So I think maybe I'm a little more hesitant with these films to say, is it just kind of getting it out there? Hey, it's an established IP. People are going to want to show up for that third franchise film. So, I'll go see it, but I'm more intrigued by what synopsis we're going to get here. It looks like what we're having, the returning family at least, is really the only thing that was kind of mentioned in an article, and that's not even confirmed right now. So I don't know if I'm assuming so, since that seems to be the main, A Quiet Place 2, and now A Quiet Place 3 will probably just be the main focal point of the family that was established in the original. So I'm assuming that's going to be the angle, but just give me a reason. Give me a reason for 3 to exist.
Exactly. And I think I'm more excited now because of day one being such a departure from what we got from part 2, where they actually like made that more of a focused, more quiet, smaller story. And like that surprised me. I went into day one expecting this to be where they jumped the shark, because I was already a little turned off by 2. I felt like, again, we turned something that was exciting and quiet, no pun intended, small, into this huge phenomenon. And then we're just kind of like, okay, yep, we're going to get to an island, and, we're going to do our own thing, whatever. And then that's it. It's like, can we please just like keep on what made the first one special? And it's that weird, interesting dynamic of like, what do you do when you have like this, family of, what was it, 4 or 5 kids at the time when it started? No, it was 4 kids when they started, or 3 and a 1 on the way. And, it's like we start with that, and then we just have to live in this terrifying situation. And how do you raise children? And then on top of that, one of your children has a disability in the sense that they're, deaf, so they can't hear. And it's like, this is a very tough and decent situation where you're going to want your ears, you know what I mean? You're going to want to be able to listen for when these awful monsters are chasing you. And it was really good. And I think day one surprised me, so I'm hoping we can kind of keep that energy moving. I feel like taking a break between part 1 and part 2, as long as we did, and not having to deal with obviously COVID and stuff, I hope that brings forth a more like well-rounded product, I would say.
Yeah, again, give me a reason. I want that emotional connection that I had in the first one with a lot of our characters. It just felt what a happy, just accident, that a film that was, where we just went and checked it out with no expectation and really left the theater saying, oh my gosh, that was really compelling stuff. And, using the idea of sound and one of the kids having a disability, not being able to hear. And I thought that was really well done, and leads to spoiler, when John Krasinski meets his demise, it really
What?
leads to an
He
emotional moment.
dies?
Yes, sorry,
What?
Dylan. I know you're in the theater with me, but I'm sure you forgot. No, it leads to an emotional moment, and I haven't seen the second one probably in maybe 2 years. I think I didn't really get that from the sequel, so I really want them to tell me an emotional tale. I still have to watch Day One. That was another film I started, got 10 minutes into it, and then said, I'll put a bookmark in this and come back to it. I still have yet to go back to it, but I will in time for 3 to come out. Maybe I'll do it a little bit sooner to see if I get more excited for 3 in terms of the storytelling. So I don't know. Just give me a reason. I'll be there regardless. We'll cover it for the channel, but I want to be more excited than just being able to, cover it for the actual channel.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think originally the story or the idea that John Krasinski had when he came to pitching sequels was that he just wanted to make this a trilogy, and at least for the family, because I think Day One shows that we can definitely tell more stories in this universe, which is cool. But like, I think just give us a solid wrap up, and if they can fix anything with 2, they can kind of make 2 a bridge story in a sense, where we pick up, obviously Cillian Murphy's character. We see a little bit of how the other side of life is, moving forward with this whole incident. So I think like if we can kind of make this landing stick and make it stick hard, I think you can kind of save 2 a little bit and make it feel a little less inconsequential. So I'm hoping for that. I'm looking forward to that. But speaking of prequels that really need to land, or films that really need to land, I guess in this case TV shows, Welcome to Derry showed I think they said 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10
Yeah,
minutes.
was it 10
of
minutes?
The opening episode for it, Welcome to Derry, that I think is dropping in October, I believe.
Yep, October. And did you read the description?
I did.
I did too.
Unfortunately, that footage is not online. We do have the detailed, bloody, disgusting article that does kind of just detail that 10 minutes of the episode. I don't know. How'd you feel about it, Dylan?
I mean, just from the description, it sounds eerie. It sounds like they're, if this is like the start, or at least like even just if this is how we were kicking things off, like that's a way to do it. That's a bang.
It's supposed
You know
to be
what I
the
mean?
first 10 minutes of the first episode. So that's
Then yeah,
what we're supposed to get right off the bat.
God, it's really leaning into the maniacal evilness of Pennywise, really, with this one. I think that if there was any message they were trying to send with this one, I think that it is that they're going to be trying to go back to the feel and the tone of chapter 1, in the sense of making it more about him being scary and less trying to play up on the icon that is Pennywise, and trying to make him more like we want him in the memes. We want him to be the one that everybody talks about. I feel like they're kind of setting the tone back into, this is going to be very scary. I think that what has me excited, even though I had my critiques with this movie, they said that it's like they compare it to the imagery to the first Omen in that birthing scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm into it. We're talking about a monstrous newborn baby. So, I mean, I'm into it. I think this could be very scary. I like the idea of the kid's eye turning. Again, all through description here, it sounds like we're heading in the right direction.
I was actually excited to read this first 10 minutes of the Welcome to Derry, because we were modest in our expectations, maybe even a little bit more negative in terms of, I think we brought it up there. Give us a reason for this to exist and not just rehash the feelings that we've had in it chapter 1 and 2, and, retelling of a story in the similar dynamics. I think this opening 10 minutes seems very captivating from what we do read. I love the take on it. Does seem like it is going to give us those horror roots that we're hoping for. So I hope this isn't just like an exceptional 10 minutes to open the series and then it's all going to go to hell, because it really does seem like it dials into what makes Pennywise great. And, it opens up with a character called the Clemens Boy, and he's sucking on this pacifier. And I like that idea, especially the imagery toward the end of the description of what we get with the pacifier. I think that seems really well done. And I think that's a way to certainly kick off this series, especially with, I think what right now the plan is for 3, I think, seasons of this right now. So I think that's what we're going to get. And I think, if we get what we're getting with this first 10 minutes, I'm certainly excited. I know that they had interviewed the Muschietti siblings at San Diego Comic-Con, and Andy had said that so many questions have been posed for that original, the concept of who is Bob Gray, what does it exactly want, and he jokingly had said, we're going to ruin all that and kind of give you some texture to it and solve a few mysteries, but then also pose some new mysteries and keep some open. So it seems like they're going to be across the board in terms of what we're going to get. And I think, for that, we said we didn't want an, over analyzing anything. And I think, I think that's the way to go in terms of maybe solve a few, but open up some new ones in terms of like, hey, you don't have to tell me the exact seat. I just need to know the stadium and maybe the section, and don't give me every detail of every little thing. So I'm okay with on solving a few mysteries, but, keep a lot of it, that lore around Pennywise. Keep it a little vague, a little gray, if you will.
Look at you. But you and your puns. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that's cool. I was also, I don't know if this is like bin knowledge or not. I know a lot of people have been asking for it, but did you catch that little piece at the end there where they talk about just kind of how it continues on or how the rest of the series jumps from there, where they said the Clemens disappearance serves as the inciting incident of the series, which will explore the burning of the black nightclub, the Black Spot, that's detailed on the historical interlude in Stephen King's novel. People have been wanting them to dive into that story since I think like the book was released.
Yeah.
And it's exciting that we're finally going to dive into that. Because I know when we did our trailer breakdown, we were like, okay, this has some good tone. This has some interesting ideas. But what are we going to do? What exactly are we going to take from the book? And what are we going to leave as a mystery? And I agree with you. This description, it's got me excited. I'm looking forward to it. As somebody who was not a fan of part 2, I think maybe there's a bit of a redemption arc here for Andy Muschietti and team to say, okay, we hear you. Let's go back to the horror, especially because, like you said, 3 seasons as a series. Why not dive into some of this stuff? Why not lean into some of those scares we never got to see and really build that up and make us understand what kind of a force Pennywise has been on the town of Derry for, all this time?
Yeah, and wrapping around to close to the beginning of the show, we were talking about Stephen King properties and them being so hefty in terms of those novelizations that sometimes we need that series to really draw out the narrative and really feel like it's a cohesive, complete story. And I think this is easily the way to go. It's got me excited really to get kind of granular with some of these instances, especially if we don't have to overtell everything, but kind of just give us a little more texture to some of these instances. Like, I wasn't a fan of chapter 2, but the opening to chapter 2, I was
so
excited.
Good. It starts off so fucking strong, man. That is such a scary scene.
And there's just something so off-putting about that. And that's what I'm excited about Welcome to Derry, is really getting into the town. If they can uphold that feeling that we got in the beginning of chapter 2, I will be all about this series, just because it was so uncomfortable just to watch our characters go through those scenes. And it was just a short portion of chapter 2. I wish they were able to really capture that for the remainder of the actual film itself. But it's like, if we can do that in Welcome to Derry, I'm all for it.
Because it does the exact thing. And honestly, I think in the most subtle way out of both films, where it's like, it does that thing where it shows like the effect that Pennywise just has on the town and townspeople. And I know so many people have talked about that being the scariest part of the story, and just what Pennywise is as a character is like, it's not just him killing kids. It's not just him, scaring adults. It's literally him being this mold, this black mold that just lives on the town of Derry and infects everybody. It's so cool. And like, I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely like you after reading that, because I'm not gonna bullshit you, Luke. When you sent me that as like one of our top stories for the week, because Luke compiles these, he puts all these together. Little inside baseball, he's doing this, and it's like, dude, that is that I was like, all right, how much more mileage can we get out of this? In the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know how much I'm going to say. I go to that article and I read that and I was like, I'm excited to talk about this. I'm looking forward to this now.
Absolutely. That's what I was like. For me, I was just perusing articles and I was like, I don't even think Welcome to Derry is going to make it into the lineup. And then I clicked on it and I read that 10 minutes and I was like, holy shit, this seems like something that's rather interesting that really captivated me just reading it. So I'd love to see it unfold on screen. So I think it encapsulates what we loved about the beginning of chapter 2. Pennywise is this cancer that is growing on the underbelly of the town and really latching on to the adults as well. You know, the pharmacist, I think, is one of the intriguing, you can really point to that and say, ugh, so off-putting, so weird. And to get that throughout the season, I'm ready to be uncomfortable. I'm ready for it. So, and I think this 10 minutes has served us well. It's got me going from a little more negative to really positive and really excited to see what they're going to bring. Because, they said at the very end of, I think it's on Instagram, there's that interview, just them speaking in front of an audience. And he says, Andy says, this is going to be more intense than what we'd seen in chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I think certainly this first 10 minutes has brought that. So I'm hoping that it just, we're not just trying to sell it, which of course they're going to, but I really hope they really do bring that intensity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there you have it, folks. That is this week's episode of the Sunday Scaries. Let's go through the last few messages here. I know we got a couple of fun ones. Let's see. Sergio Parkoff, Descent into Darkness, a great disturbing found footage horror film. I'll have to check it out.
Put it on the list.
I watched Megan is Missing when my daughter was a teenager and I wanted to lock them in the house.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that'll do that. That was one I watched a long time ago and thought, okay, it's creepy, but it's nothing. And then, that's another one. If you watch it after having kids,
watching some of these horror stories really puts a different perspective after you have a kid. Like, it's like really, really weird.
Paula says, I love you guys. Thank you, Paula. We love you. Thank you so much for sitting here and hanging out with us, talking some spooky movies. Hey, yo, what's going on? And then awesome stream. Thank you, Russell. We appreciate it. Shutter to thank you are awesome. Thank you. And lots of wow. Thank you. I feel like people thought we were ending the episode very early. Thank you for making your Sundays a little less scary. Love it. This is great. You guys are honestly too cool, too amazing.
Hell yeah.
There you go. Okay. All right. Till next week. Get bloody. Nice. Greetings from East Palestine. What's going on? Yes, actually, if you're talking East Palestine, Ohio, we're in the same neck of the woods there. Not really, but a couple hours.
Kind of.
Let's go on.
That gas leak was at, right? The train crash.
Oh no, the train crash. Yeah, that was wild. That was interesting. Nice seeing you.
Make more movie with that as the lore.
I think there's like 7 zombie movies that do that. Like it's like everybody's on
Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
There you go. I've been wanting to see more of the Black Spot for 40 years. Yes, absolutely. Paula says, cool. And I am here. Okay, Paula. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, thank you to our wonderful producer, Adrian, the man in the corner over there. Adrian, any of today's stories as a mild horror fan piquing your interest?
Oh, yeah, dude. All of them. You already know. I'm here. Front row seats. Best seats in the show, man.
Absolutely. Well, he's got homework. If he can, I really want him and his lady friend to go see Together and let us know what they thought next week, because I think that one's going to be fun for you guys.
I'm down. Yeah, she was talking about wanting to go to the movies as soon as she gets back from Mexico. So, yeah, we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to see some cool shit.
Yeah, I'd say that one's definitely, as far as stuff in the theater right now that's not big tentpole blockbuster stuff, that's a good little spooky flick that'll get under your skin literally and figuratively. So certainly lots of fun. Penelope in here, great show, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much, Penelope. Thank you all. And yeah, another wonderful show, another fun time talking the Sunday Scaries, talking horror news, and of course Hell House LLC, which we'll be back here again next week with part 2. So we'll be checking that one out. So if you have not seen it, maybe sit down if you have some time this week. Again, it's on Tubi, it's on Shudder. check them out. And yeah, we'll be back here to talk about that one. And Adrian, you as well, if you want to get in on the conversation. I didn't really prep him. I forgot to tell him because we've been on and off the last couple weeks. I was like, hey, if you want to watch this movie, we're reviewing it on Tubi if you want to check them out. So
yeah, I'll come prep next time.
No, you're good. It was my bad. So, all righty. Well, that's going to wrap us up here, folks. So I guess with all that said and done, keep it right here on Splattercast. Keep checking out the videos, lots of reviews, and yeah, that's everything I got. So until next week, I'm Dylan Newell.
I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horse shit, gonna do it live, cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.